Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this England press conference. On a housekeeping note before we start, can I please ask everybody to use the handheld mics and state their name and organisation before asking a question. And before we start, the England manager would like to say a few words.
Well, basically, it will be a few words. It's mainly to welcome you and to thank you for coming to the home of one of our main sponsors here today at Luton. Very pleased to see you all here. It's a big day for me to announce a squad that I've obviously given a lot of thought to and which has involved me in quite a number of decisions, which are not easy decisions to make. But you all understand that, of course, and it's very much a part of the job and part of your responsibility. But I'm pleased at least now to be able to announce that squad and to hope with the rest of the country that the squad we've chosen will give a very good account of itself in Brazil and will certainly not let the country down in any way.
Okay, we'll take our first question.
Roy, hello.
Hello, Nick.
From Sky Sports News. Would it be fair to say that the decision to take Luke Shaw ahead of Ashley Cole was the hardest one you had to make? And what was it that made you decide to go that way?
Well, it was an unbelievably hard decision because Ashley is a player that, by the maturity and the graciousness that Ashley Cole has shown.
On the flip side, you've selected a player in Frank Lampard who'll be 36 during the course of the tournament. Could you just tell us why you've gone for Frank?
Well, Frank Lampard, I think, is a very important part of our setup still. I mean, you can't compare players in terms of age. You have to think about them in terms of position and in terms of, what they are going to bring to the team. When you talk about fullbacks like Ashley and Luke, you really are making a choice. When you're in midfield, you have many more positions to choose from, and the qualities you're looking for from players in those positions vary. Frank has been captain of the team on many occasions during my 2 years. He's been the vice captain to Steven Gerrard. He still plays a very important role in his club side, despite the fact he's not as young as some of the other players. And we think his leadership qualities and the qualities that he will bring to us in Brazil, the help he will give us all, and the ability he has as a player, make him a man who fully deserves his selection.
Doing the sums quickly, it looks as if only 6 players have been to a World Cup before. Do you think that's going to be enough experience?
Well, we hope so. I mean, it's like everything else with experience. How do you get experience? You get experience by being given the opportunity. Those 6 who've been there before, once upon a time, they didn't have any experience either. It's a catch-22 situation. We are aware that in this particular group there are players who haven't played their 50-odd games, but I think also that the balance is still quite good. There are still enough players. I mean, for example, Glenn Johnson has put 50 caps, Cahill, Jagielka, Baines, Hart, Gerrard, Rooney. All of these people have got plenty of caps between them, so it would be wrong, I think, to focus totally on the fact that there are some out there who are young and are less experienced, because everyone's inexperienced until the time he gets the chance to show he can do the job.
Okay, and picking up from that, just how excited then are you at being able to name young stars of the future, such as Raheem Sterling? You've got Jordan Henderson, Ross Barkley in there, lots of good young players. How important was it for you to take those exciting young players?
I think that they've imposed themselves upon me. I don't know that it's a question ever that I set out to take them. I think they've played so well and done so well and been so effective in their club teams and had such success that I think that they have really imposed themselves and imposed their ability, if you like, on my thinking. I'm sure that maybe in October, if I'd have had to pick a squad directly after the final 2 games that qualified us, it might have looked somewhat different, because a lot of water has passed under the bridge between October and now, and you cannot, unfortunately, or I don't know why I use the word unfortunately, that's not necessary, you can't ignore, what people are doing on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis in their club sides, and you don't pick football teams, and this goes not only for national team managers but club managers, you don't do it on anything other than what's happening at any particular time, and your decision as to who is the best man to do the job. And in October, I'm not certain that Raheem Sterling was getting anything like the game time or having anything like the impact he's had in the last 4 months or so. So I think they deserve every credit for making certain that the national team manager can't ignore them.
In the past, Roy, England managers have gone to World Cups and major tournaments with players that have been injured, and there's been the hope that they'll be fit in time. I mean, you've got a few there that have had injury issues, like Jack Wilshere, Phil Jones, Wayne Rooney, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Phil Jagielka. Are you happy that all of them are going to be okay and able to play a full part if needed?
Well, we wouldn't have accepted or selected anybody in this 23 if we seriously thought that we were going to be on tenterhooks with regard to his fitness, and I have to rely in that matter on the doctors and the physios at the various clubs where the players play, and of course our own doctors and physios. The only one I would say that serious
finally could be the World Cup, where we see Wayne Rooney prove just what a good player he is.
Well, if it's up to Wayne, and if it's anything to do with desire and ambition and wanting to do it, then there's no doubt in my mind that we have nothing to fear with Wayne in that respect. At the moment he's in this week where I've actually said to the players that I'm more than happy for them to go and forget football for a week and go and get themselves mentally prepared for the many weeks we have ahead. Wayne's decided to take some physios with him where he's going and to continue his programme, because he's so determined that when we meet up on the 19th, he'll be able to join in with us straight away. So attitude, spot on. Desire could not be better. Has he got the ability? Yes, he has. So it's just a question of bringing on the matches and hoping that on that particular day he can find the form that makes Wayne Rooney who he is.
Dan Rowan, BBC News. Hi, Roy.
Hi, Dan.
Someone once said you can't win anything with kids, Roy. How far can this young squad go, do you think?
Yeah, there was full of those things, wasn't there? But I think Southampton might have proved that wrong this year. I don't think, yesterday, the three boys, I was saying to my wife, who was sitting alongside me, that when the three boys went to warm up, there was already players on the field who were very young, and the three that warmed up, the eldest was 20, and I think Southampton have had a very good season. So I'm not so certain that old adage, which I heard many, many times in my early coaching career, I think it's probably not as true as it once was. But this is a 23-man squad. We're not talking about 11 here. We're talking about 23. In that 23, there's an awful lot of caps, and it would not surprise me that when we put a team on the field in certain matches and the 11 have been selected, if we add the caps up, I would be pretty much prepared to bet we'll be right up there with all the other teams as well. So we shouldn't get hung up, I don't think, on the fact that there are some youngsters in there. But I must emphasise one thing. They are there because I think they deserve to be there and they are capable of playing. I'm not taking anyone purely for the experience, unless you add maybe John Flanagan and John Stones, who are on the standby list and who may have to leave us if Phil Jones pulls through.
So you believe this squad could win the World Cup, do you?
Do I believe the squad can win the World Cup? Yes, of course I believe the squad can win the World Cup, because otherwise what's the point of taking the squad to the World Cup if you don't have some belief that they can win it? But they're empty words, and I've got to say that I've never quite understood the importance of people attached to that. I'm certain that Scolari is saying Brazil can win it. I'm certain that the Uruguayan coach Tavares is saying they can win it. I'm certain the Argentinian, the German. Why should we say otherwise? If we're going to win it, we'll have to play very well. If we're going to win it, we'll have to prepare very well. And if we're going to win it, this talented group of players, I think many of you in the room would agree with me, are a talented group of players. They've got to show their talent. And then otherwise, all the words in the world and all the belief and all the optimism count for nothing. But I think we're right to have some degree of optimism. I think we're right to work on the basis that there is a mood of positivity in the country, if I understand it correctly, and we're going to try and feed off that, get our energy from it, and to make certain that we do nothing to let people down. Whether it will take us to a World Cup final and a win, who knows? But we'll be doing our best.
What was it like actually phoning players up who you know well?
As far as we were concerned, really players who were on the fringes and people accepted them as on the fringes. I'm not certain that people will accept them anymore as fringe players. I think, there's many of those guys, if I don't play them from the start, people will be asking why, which is how it should be. So certainly once you move into that front six positions, I think we have a lot of options. I think there's a lot of possibilities. A lot of players can play in different positions. And I'd like to think that that's a very exciting group we have for those front six positions, whereas the back four and the goalkeeper tend to be a lot more stable, and it will probably be easier for people to second guess my selections in that area than it will be for them to second guess my selections in the other. And on that subject, I must congratulate those Sky readers who worried the life out of me 10 days ago when I saw the results of a poll, and the team was virtually exactly the one, the squad was virtually exactly the one I was going to select. I was very concerned that there were some very damaging leaks somewhere in my organisation, so I congratulate them on second guessing me very, very well.
Roy, the players that burst onto the scene and have now made it into your provisional squad, at least your 30, are from Liverpool, Southampton and Everton. They all play a very similar brand of football. Is this now brand England?
No, I don't know that. I've not thought about the brands of football teams have played in that respect when selecting the players. I've thought about the qualities of the individual players. What brand do they all play? Well, they all play the brand, I suppose, that we've been trying to play ourselves. They believe in passing the ball, they believe in movement, they believe in trying to be very positive in possession of the ball and getting behind defenders, and they believe in working very hard to get back into shape when they lose the ball. So there's not much that any of those three teams are doing that we haven't been trying very hard to do ourselves.
Looking at Ross Barkley, really proven himself in recent months.
Well, he's a very, very exciting player, a very exciting talent. If he can continue at that level, he has a fantastic future in front of him. But I would hope that people are realistic in their expectations from him. We think that he's a very, very exciting member of this team and could be a very useful member of the team as well. But I wouldn't want to put him under the enormous pressure that every time he gets the ball he's got to score a goal like the one he scored against Manchester City, or every time he gets the ball he's got to run 40 yards beating 5 opponents along the way, because don't forget in that midfield group there's plenty of players who can score goals. So I'm really rather hoping that the onus of responsibility for leading England and scoring England's goals is at least shared out amongst more players, which might give Wayne Rooney the chance to show many of the other aspects of his game. So I hope you're right, but time will tell, and my words won't actually win us any games.
Hi, Simon Biger from 5 News. How much of a help do you think it is, Roy, to this relatively young squad that expectations are lower this time because of what happened 4 years ago?
Well, it's a very good question, but I've got to say I find it hard really to quantify expectations. I think it would be sad to be sitting here as the England manager announcing a squad which excites me and looking forward to a tournament that excites me if I didn't believe there were expectations and hopes. So I'm a bit wary of that one. I think that as an England player you have to accept that it's a great honour to play for your country, because you're playing for a country where caps are very hard to get. You're playing in a World Cup which you've worked unbelievably hard to get to through a difficult qualifying campaign, and now the opportunity is yours to really go on this stage and take possession, if you like, of the stage. I'm rather hoping that's what we'll have a chance to do, and I'm also hoping that the feeling I get that people within the country who understand football, and that takes in not just the people sitting here, it takes into the general public as well, because we do know as a general public quite a lot about football, that they will understand that this is a group of players who've got potential, who could do very well, and that we'll get the support. And our job, I think, is to prepare ourselves well and to make certain that we don't, when we look in the mirror, ever see something we don't want to see.
Sure, well, on that, I guess, of course, the players are confident, but 4 years ago, there was an immense amount of pressure, the golden generation, all that sort of thing.
But that's
So the
given.
youngsters now don't really feel that.
Well, these are epithets that other people give to you. You know, that's the problem. You
So
know,
it
you
doesn't matter
don't.
what the media
I'm not
are
so
saying.
certain that those players you're talking about went out and described themselves as the golden generation. I'm not so certain they were the ones who went out shouting from the rooftops, "We are the golden generation. We are magnificent. We will win everything." On the other hand, they can't stop other people making that judgment and, you know, making those claims. If you're saying, do I think that some of these players will be under somewhat less pressure than those players? Yeah, you're probably right, they are. But whatever happens, whether people are giving you this epithet or that epithet, it's up to you really to be the player you are and the player you can be and to do the job that the team and the coach want you to do. And I believe that in this 23 we got plenty of those.
And with the World Cup, of course, you're in it to win it, but is the European Championship in 2 years' time more realistic, do you think?
Well, we're not thinking about that, to be frank. I mean, 2016 is a long way off. This tournament means everything to us. We want to do very well in it. So our focus is very much on this tournament, and I will refute any claims that, you know, some of these players are selected because of 2016. They're selected because of 2014, and I think they can do well. But of course, if at the end of the tournament, when we come away and we're analysing, well, what did we get out of it? If one of the things we got out of it is that some of the players have grown up a bit more, got a bit more experience, will stand them in good stead for the future. Because there's no doubt that if some of these players here who don't have many caps at the moment, if they continue on the path they're on at the moment, they're going to get a lot more caps. And in 2 years' time, 4 years' time, hopefully they'll be even stronger players than they are today at international level.
Roy, Paul Kelso, Sky News. You come to a car plant to make this announcement. This squad, a family saloon or a sports car you put together?
I beg your pardon?
Is this squad a family saloon or a sports car you put together?
That's a very good question, I suppose, but I don't know that I'm clever enough to answer in those terms. Unfortunately, I don't know. I think I'll sort of give you a similar answer to the one I've just given. I'll allow you to decide whether it's a sports car or a family saloon. All I can say is I'm really very happy to drive it.
I'll take that. Let's try it another way. It strikes me this England team will be something of an unknown quantity to their opponents, given the lack of experience. Do you know what to expect from that first 11 you've got in your mind?
I'm not so sure you're right there. You know, you might be, but I think the Premier League these days is such a brand, and I wouldn't think there are too many places in the world where you could go and mention the name of Adam Lallana or Raheem Sterling or Jordan Henderson, and people will say, we don't know anything about him and who is he. So I don't really imagine we're going to get an enormous amount of help out of that. But of course, what it does mean is that some of the teams, Italy, of course, played against us 2 years ago, and there's a good chance, I guess, that the team that plays against them now in Manaus might have quite a few changes. I would suspect more changes than the Italian team itself will have.
A word about Steven Gerrard. He's had a remarkable season and a great deal of responsibility leading Liverpool, a great deal of disappointment. Any concerns that he'll be able to pick himself up and lead this team for you?
No concerns whatsoever. But very disappointed for him, of course. I mean, I share his disappointment. I was very sad that he feels himself responsible for a mistake, which I think was not a mistake of him as an individual football player. I think it was a moment that happens in a game of football where you slip over, and it's unfortunate he slipped over at the wrong time, and a goal was scored, whereas in the game I'd seen when they played Manchester City, Vincent Kompany slips and misses a header and gives Liverpool the victory. It could have been so easily the other way round that people were now looking at Vincent Kompany as the man that handed Liverpool the title. So I've got to say I'm very philosophical about those things. I know it's harder for the players to be, especially when you're a part of it. But Stephen is mentally extremely strong. He's extremely proud. He loves Liverpool, but he also loves England. And I don't have any doubt whatsoever that he'll be as good as he ever was during this World Cup for us.
And finally, when you look down this list, you talked about the evolution of the squad. Are you almost surprised yourself at quite how adventurous and youthful the list that you've ended up selecting is?
I'm not enormously surprised, I suppose. I've been thinking about it for so long. But I mean, I didn't exactly wake up this morning and, well, there's a surprise. But I think I can understand where you're going with the question. And I think that obviously that will be an element that people will pick up on. And there will be people who say, well, this is a bit of a surprise that, you know, so many young players got selected. But there'll be just as many people, I think, who will look at it and say, well, we understand why they were selected and there were merits. So I'll just have to live with whatever people are saying and in the meantime get on with working with the players.
Okay.
Hi Roy, Kami Enzer, Channel 4 News. On a similar note, a young squad, exciting, fresh. Internally, behind closed doors, there's obviously enthusiasm and excitement, but you'll be aware, outside, there is a perception that England have kind of become the kind of Vauxhall, if you like, of international football. They're dependable, well-made, well-organised, full of energy, but ultimately a little bit ordinary. How are you going to persuade your young squad that they can go as far as you say they can?
Well, first of all, you're putting me on very dangerous ground by describing Vauxhall in that manner, and I think I better bring Tim on the stage here, the managing director of Vauxhall, to first of all maybe put a few of those aspersions to rest and, you know, maybe lay a few different claims. I'm always worried when I get questions where people start off by saying the perception elsewhere is, because I don't feel myself comfortable to really assess what the perception of other countries is. You know, I would be very surprised if the Italian and the Uruguayan and the Costa Rican coach, when they're talking to their teams, are not saying this is a very good team with very good players. This is a game you can definitely lose. If you don't do this, that and the other, if you don't solve this, that and the other problem, you will lose this game. If it's really true that our reputation in world football has sunk to that level, and we don't lose very often. I mean, we played 10 matches in the qualifiers for no defeats. I've had 3 defeats in 25 games, all of which are in friendly matches where I've made a lot of experiments. I would be a little bit surprised if we are really at that level, one. But two, it doesn't matter, because it would only matter if these players here believed it. If these players here believed we're not really very good, we're just an ordinary bunch.
What do they believe? What do they think they can do?
Well, you'd have to ask them individually, but if I get my feelings about what they think they can do, they think they can have a very good tournament, that they can win matches, and they can go a good way in the tournament. That's what they think, and that's what they'll be hoping for. But the one thing I do know is they're not going to be put off in any way by any suggestions that there are countries out there that don't respect you quite as much anymore. A, I don't believe it, and B, I don't care about it anyway, because I know that this group of players, they know what they can do, they know what they want to do, and they're going to try and do it.
Sorry, and just a kind of wider note, when you saw Man City win the Premier League yesterday, only 2 regular players eligible for England. What do you think about that?
No, I don't think anything about that. That's, you know, Manchester City are a fantastic club, had a fantastic season, and have just been crowned worthy champions. It's not for me to make any comments about the number of English players or any other nationality for that matter. I'm rather happy that today, when I choose an England squad, I've got a lot of players to choose from. You know, this 23 took an awful lot of agonising over, because there were a lot more than 23 players who I thought would have deserved and could quite easily have been in the group, and that's not including the 4 players who were very strong candidates who've all been ruled out by injury. So it doesn't really matter to me whether Man City have got 6 English players or 2, or Liverpool have got 2 or 6. All I need to know is that the players are out there playing at a good level in the Premier League and are available to play for England. And the clubs they play for, that's fortunately for me not an issue.
Okay, we're going to start to wrap it up and take final questions from Natalie Perks.
Yeah, Natalie Perks, BBC News. Roy, just following on from you saying about you don't know what the rest of the world think of England. After the Denmark game, the coach said, "Good luck, you're going to need it." Was he entirely wrong? Do you even care what others' perception of England is?
I don't take any, what's the word, umbrage I was going to say, but that would be too harsh a word. I pay no attention to those things that people say after games, especially coaches who have just lost the game and are disappointed and maybe thinking that a flippant comment is the right way to end the conversation or end the press conference. I think that he actually gave you, obviously being now able to ask the question, a line that you could sort of pick up on and use, but whether or not he really meant it in the way he meant it, or whether it was just a flippant comment, a throwaway line, but it doesn't matter anyway. The fact that I would defy anybody to really give a clear and definite judgment on what the world thinks of anything. The world's a big place. There's a lot of people out there, so I concentrate on the things I can have some effect upon. I can't affect Morten Olsen's press conferences. We were pleased to win the game. We thought we won it, if not comfortably, very deservedly, despite the fact we left a lot of players out of the team in that game. And really, the important thing for me, that it was a victory which kept us on the right track with regard to our World Cup campaign.
So since that game, how many times has this 23 changed? How many times have you taken the Tipex to it and changed it all around?
Well, it's changed, obviously, or thoughts about it have changed through injury, because we've lost quite a lot of players. We lost Theo very early on, then we lost Jay Rodriguez, we lost Carl Walker. Who's the other one? There's four. We lost, Andros Townsend. So we lost 4 players, all of whom were obviously very clearly in our thoughts. So it has changed, but I think in general terms, the large body of the squad has been pretty clear in our mind for a fairly long period of time, and certainly nothing has been changed in terms of our squad in relation to anything that's happened in the last couple of weeks. There's been no knee-jerk reaction that, well, we weren't thinking about him, but we better put him in because he's just scored a goal. There's been none of that I can assure you.
And just one final one for me. When you spoke to Ashley Cole, did you want him to go on the standby list? And did he say to you at that point, "No, I'm out, I'm going to retire," or how did that go down?
Well, I'm going to keep that conversation to myself, actually. I mean, I think that it's only right that I phoned Ashley to make it clear to him that I'd made a decision which would mean he wasn't in the 23, and then our conversation continued from there. But I don't really want to go into that. I don't think it's right to go into it. It was a private conversation. It's a difficult conversation because I've got such respect and admiration and affection for Ashley Cole that I don't want anything to come out and be attributed to me in relation to that conversation other than what I'm actually saying now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that ends the press conference. Thanks very much.
Thank you.